Hello, and welcome to another episode of
All Things
Bloom. I just want to put this disclaimer out here really quick that today we will be discussing a topic, human trafficking, and this may be a sensitive matter, so we want you to take caution. And we also want to say if you or anyone you know is experiencing any form of human trafficking, please call the National Trafficking Hotline at 1-888 373-7888 or call our Bloom intake line at 484-268-8581 and we will assist you in any way possible. I wanted to share also the mission and vision of Bloom Beyond the Walls, which is where this podcast is brought to you by. And our mission is to improve safety and wellness in Lehigh Valley, Northampton County, through community education and prevention services, outreach and advocacy that leads to restoration. So with all of that, I am Sheniqua Mitchell. I am the outreach manager here at Bloom for Women, and my other co-host, I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly, and I am the operations associate here at Bloom.
And today we have the pleasure of having this beautiful lady here, whom I call my boss lady, the CEO of Bloom for Women, Carol Andersen.
So happy to be here today.
Yes. So this is our official first CEO's Corner. And she has so graciously agreed to allow us to sit with her and to talk with her and to just get some insight into her mind as our CEO and just a little bit about who she is. And we're so lucky here because we get so much of her. She's very down to earth, very relatable, and the culture here is a place where we love to come to work, and it's because what is on her flows down to us. So thank you for agreeing to sit down with us today.
Looking forward to it.
So my first question to you is, what inspired you to start Bloom? What is a little bit of the history behind why you started Bloom?
So I was a foster parent for Northampton County children and youth quite a long time ago. And my family and I did that for 5 years. And that is really where a window was opened up into a world that I didn't realize was happening just very close to home, where women were experiencing trafficking here in the Lehigh Valley, and several of them had their children taken away from them. And as I got to know 2 to 3 women and their stories, it really just disturbed me. And I certainly didn't know it then, but it's like that next right thing philosophy where you just walk through the next door. And I asked questions. I wanted to be part of the solution. I went to work for Safe Monroe for a couple of years and got trained in crisis counseling, in domestic violence and sexual assault. Really learned more about domestic trafficking over the years, and then became introduced to a program in Nashville known as Thistle Farms, and went there in 2014 with a friend of mine. We came home and just hit the ground running. And here we are today, 10 years later.
That is amazing. And just in case you did not know, Bloom is an organization. We help survivors of human trafficking and sexual exploitation. And in case you do not know what human trafficking is, I'd like to give you a definition from the National Trafficking Hotline. And it says it is the recruitment, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for the purpose of commercial sex acts, where such an act is induced by force, fraud, or coercion, or in which the person induced to perform such an act has not attained the age of 18 years old. And so that is amazing that you have come into this work because of children that were coming into your home. I know you went on a journey to learn and to find out what you could do, but what was the real motivation? Like when you got back from Thistle Farms and now you have this passion, you have this training, like where does it begin? What do you do first?
Just the next right thing. Honestly, I don't think there's a path to making this happen. You know, I certainly could not have authored it. And I'm a person of faith, so I really believe it was God's leading,
Yeah.
you know, in my life. And just became, you know, it took time. It
Yeah.
definitely took some time. We didn't open our home until 2016, but it was, you know, I think the victims that I became familiar with became my greatest teachers.
Mm.
And that was the philosophy at Thistle Farms,
Yeah.
which I really bought into. You know, I really felt that that was certainly at God's heart, was
Yeah.
to listen to those that wanted
Yeah.
a new, different life. And all the women that I learned from, many of them were moms, and certainly the ones that I was caring for their babies, they wanted to become moms, but just didn't have the capacity, the support system, the they didn't, you know, people say pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but they didn't have boots. And that's something that really, really disturbed me. You know, I felt that my life could have been theirs with just a few decisions.
Wow, I love what you said there because one of the things that I think drives people with trafficking or who have been exposed to trafficking is that part of not being seen, not being heard, which creates this void for this need. So there's the force for the coercion part of trafficking that we know about and often talk about. But then there's that part where people just have a void, maybe never having been loved or never having been parented, not having a stable environment. So I love that you were able to see them. But the part that's grabbing me right now is to giving them boots. I love that because this is a faith organization and we are people of faith, but it's so much in giving the people the tools that they need. So it's not enough to just rescue, right, out of trafficking. It's not enough just to create this space where I can remove you, but after that, giving them the skills and the tools that they need is so amazing. I don't know if you want to jump in on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just totally the imagery of boots and bootstraps and how, you know, like you have to get sized.
Yes.
Let's see
That
what
is so
size boots
good.
and maybe what style.
Yeah.
And then because, you know, everyone is different and everyone has a different healing path and a different style boot. It might not be for one but the other, but getting those
So
straps
good.
is the
Yeah.
it's just a really
That's
nice metaphor there.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. And you know what I love when I'm hearing you talking about the different styles and the size, I'm thinking about an army, right? Because in this work, we come in and we become an army, right? We one of the things that our CEO emphasizes is not on my watch. And that is something that we take super serious. And so in one of the things that we do here, we not only have this culture as people that are in this work, but it's taking the survivor and saying, listen, you are a part of this army too. If you need flat boots, if you need boots that have heels on it, you know, we're really, if your boots need glitter, you know, whatever it is, we're willing to give you that. So let me ask this too. What are some of the biggest challenges you feel like you faced in this work? And how do you feel like you overcome them or are overcoming them?
Well, I think one thing I'm very sensitive to is power differential.
Mm.
And we talk about that as people, as we want to educate the community to help them understand, you know, when you have no power, there's very little you can do to change your circumstance, or agency maybe is another way to describe it.
Yeah.
And I think that when one feels they don't have the power to overcome or the agency to choose differently or take a different path, that can be, it can stop you in your tracks. It can prevent you from moving beyond a situation that could be very dangerous or violent. And I can be sensitive to that. So when I think about that, I think about the, when you ask the question, what is the greatest challenges? I think it's when I don't feel that I have the power to make a change.
Yeah.
That can be very frustrating for me.
Yeah. And one of the things, and I love that you emphasize that, and I love that your heart is like that as a CEO, because sometimes people that are in positions of power, even in helping agencies such as ours, we can forget that that sharing power dynamic, it is important for someone who's coming out of trafficking. They have been controlled. Everything about what they do on a daily basis has been controlled. What they eat, what they wear, where they go, when they sleep, what they do, with their bodies. So I love that your heart is to that you even think about that power dynamic, and that the approach is one of sharing power.
Yes.
I find that culture, and I think being here and being a part of that has been so inspiring, because it's not only giving people choice, but it's saying that where you feel weak, you do have this strength. Um, and also, I love that you shared too that sometimes we can feel powerless.
Absolutely.
We are in a housing crisis. We
Yes.
are in a budgeting crisis
Yes.
in our nation, but specifically here in Lehigh Valley, where we're trying to serve and we're trying to help. We meet all of these different barriers
Right.
to housing, all of these different barriers to the things that we need to get the survivors what they need. So when you feel like that, what are some of the things you do to like manage that? Because that has to be very frustrating. Because at the end of the day, when we're getting accolades and everyone's saying how great it is, you have to go home to think about what it is that happened with Bloom that day, and what it looks like. So how do you manage or overcome those moments where you feel powerless to change whatever the dynamic that might be in a particular situation?
I think that goes back to the serenity prayer, and recognizing there are things that we can't change,
Yeah.
but that I do have power in other areas. So I think I focus in on where I can affect change and try to do that really well and quickly. But a lot of times too, I have to ask for help. And so reaching out to my coworkers, I think I can be very transparent when I'm struggling. I don't mind doing that. I think there's a lot of strength when we can come together and cheer one another on. And so I think working with a really incredible team, and also remembering the resilience of those that I've worked alongside gives me incredible strength, remarkable courage.
Yeah. Kelly, I don't know if you have anything you want to ask or share.
Well, it kind of leads to what I wanted to ask you is like, what do you do when you go home after an 8-hour day of doing this work? How do you unwind? How do you not take it home with you? Because I feel like, I mean, I think maybe we all do a little bit, but like I always wonder, how does Carol just like, okay, I'm going home now. What do you do just to not have this heaviness of what you do?
Well, I mean, the work is heavy, but I probably have this innate optimism, and that is, I think, a gift, to enable me to do this work.
Sure.
I'm grateful for that, and my faith gives me a lot of courage. I know in the end, God wins, and
Yeah.
that helps me. But I don't have a routine. I'm not a person of ritual, so it's not like other than putting on my pajamas as soon as I can when I get up.
Okay.
I don't think I have a ritual, but I live in a peaceful setting. I have, a great support system at home. My husband's terrific, and I like to spend time outdoors. And I think just breathing in the fresh air. I live in woods around me. It's beautiful. So that brings me nature. I think can be so healing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I was doing some research about behaviors of CEOs.
Oh, really?
I did some research, and I was looking at behaviors of CEOs, and I want to know what these four terms mean to you when you hear them. So, overwhelmingly, they say that there are four behaviors of CEOs: decisiveness, engaging for impact, relentless reliability, and bold adaptation. I'm going to repeat those again. There are decisiveness, engaging it for impact, relentless reliability, and bold adaptation. For you, would you say those are relative to you, any of them? Or one more than the other?
Wow, that's a that's a tough question. Good one. I think they can mean different things to different people.
Okay.
So when I think of relentless, I could describe myself maybe as a little bit relentless. I don't give up easily.
Yeah.
Bold adaptation is interesting.
Okay.
I don't know exactly, but like I mean, I think I can adapt to any situation. I adapt well.
Yeah, and the reason why I love those and kind of chose those because there was so
Okay.
many different behaviors because I was thinking about in relation to our work.
Okay.
Literally, the bold adaptation can beat a lot some days around here. Literally in the moment to what is going on, having to meet those moments and Homeland Security calls, and there's something you have to
Right.
boom adapt to that, or a survivor, or we're dealing with something in our residence, or you
Right.
know something along those lines. So I just thought those four things
Yeah.
with relation to what we do.
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if any of these more than not mean much to you.
Yeah. I don't know. Flexible. It's certainly in the beginning it was different. I was a
Yeah.
lot more hands-on and
Okay.
the day-to-day for when there's so many more people on our team
Yeah.
today than there were in the very beginning when this first started.
Okay.
So I think I had a lot more need to be adaptable to the
Okay.
day-to-day things that were going on, that all the things that changed pretty rapidly, but
Do you
not so
miss?
much anymore. I do miss it.
You
a
do
lot.
miss being hands on?
Oh yes, absolutely. And that was the front row seat to
I love
the
that.
miracles.
I
You know,
love
and
that.
I do hear about it certainly from staff, but that's why I got into this work because I wanted to see people heal and move
Yeah.
beyond a life that they hadn't chosen.
I love
And
that.
so I do miss that, but there's so many more things now too.
Mhm.
Going out into the community,
Yeah.
engaging with people around this work, and especially women. We were with a group of women last night, and just the energy in the room
Yeah.
of women who wanted to be part of change and be
Mhm.
part of making this place a better, Lehigh Valley to live and have a meaningful life. That inspires me too.
Okay. Now let me ask you, any concerns in these areas with regard to Bloom and you being the CEO? Also in my research, I was looking at concerns of most CEOs. And they say that most CEOs are concerned with talent, operating in the global marketplace, regulation, and legislation. Where's your heart with those with regard to this work? Do you have any concerns about the talent? And we have an amazing team, so she probably doesn't have any concerns because I think we have a really good team here. But just like operating in the global marketplace, I think that's a biggie. And legislation is like a biggie.
Yes, so those. Oh, I think most of my concerns have to do with. I can see where that could be for people who are, producing something
Mhm.
and are afraid that something is going to stop them from moving forward. I think my more of my concerns, if I look at legislation,
Mhm.
it could be to have are the people who have power to release funds to advance this work,
Absolutely.
are they paying attention? Are they aware
Mhm.
of what is happening, here in the Lehigh Valley? Pennsylvania is eighth in the country
Yes.
for the number of reported cases. And we are the third largest urban area in the state of Pennsylvania, plus the growth of uh, what the highways have brought to this area in terms of how goods are moved around the country and just the growth of the warehouses has just shown us that this area of Pennsylvania is growing and there's a lot going on here. So I think that those are the things that concern me are the people that can release those funds
Mhm.
that can help sustain this work and help us do it better. Are they listening and paying
Yeah.
attention? And I don't think they are at times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would like to see more of that. I would like to
Absolutely.
see where agencies like Bloom
Yeah.
are sustainable and that our
Absolutely.
staff are compensated at a rate where we can retain the talent.
Yeah.
We have an incredibly talented team, and the skills, the eagerness to learn, the curiosity that each of our team brings to the table, I think is something that we want to retain, and we want to reward that and give them opportunities to grow and flourish. And in today's economy, we're going to need more resources to do that
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
make that happen. And that ultimately makes it better for those that we serve.
Yeah.
We know there are victims out there that need our help. There are victims that, are still in the streets that need support
Yeah.
as they consider moving beyond this experience. And they're not going to make that decision, today, perhaps, but getting out there, your position was new this year, having an outreach staff and adding to your team so that more can be done in the streets. We are serving children now,
Yeah.
and you're going to be serving men soon.
Yeah.
Those are things that are important to us. And growing our residential program, long-term housing, those are the things that keep me up at night. And is that competition in the global marketplace? Can legislation affect that? I'm sure it can. I don't know if I'm smart enough to know exactly what that is, but I want people to listen. I want those
Absolutely.
people of influence and power that can make this change sustainable. I want them
Absolutely.
to pay attention.
Absolutely.
So if you're listening, call me.
Yes. We have been blessed so far that Bloom is not really heavily federally funded, but we have amazing people that support and that do donate. But because this work is so vast and it's growing, we need to do more, and that takes money. That takes money. It takes, and I was just talking to someone the other day, and I said, when the people that sit at the head of power start being moved and their hearts become pricked, there will be a trickle down effect. Right now, it seems like we're trying to operate from the bottom up and reach up. But when the people that's decision makers, legislators, lawmakers, when the rich, when the privileged, when their hearts become pricked, there will be a trickle down flow effect. And teamwork makes the dream work. And this is the thing. Sometimes people feel like I don't have time to do it. But if you get behind the one and push the one who has the vision to do it, then we can get some things done. Sometimes you may not be able to do it, but if you throw your resources and your support behind the ones who are doing it, then we can accomplish so much. And I started as an intern in May of last year, and I've been here permanently since January. But even how the needs have grown, how our agency has expanded in such a short time that I have been here, is astronomical. And the more we continue to address the needs of survivors, now that we are serving men and we are serving children, we're finding more needs. So I love that. And if you're listening, call our boss lady. Call our boss lady. I want to ask, what are some of the lessons and insights you've gained through your experience that you think will be valuable for our listeners in this work as a CEO?
Well, I think that when you heal a woman, you heal a community. I've heard that said by founder of Thistle Farms.
Yeah.
And I believe that wholeheartedly. She's traveled around the world working with marginalized populations, all over the world, third world countries in war-torn areas. But I think, we live in a beautiful area where I think a lot of people think opportunity is available to everyone.
Yeah.
But we know that women are greatly affected. Women of color are more greatly affected by this issue. And when we heal women, when we support women, it changes legacies. It will change the family's future. When women get their kids back, when they're in a healthy place, when they're given a safe place to live and a job that's meaningful, where they can be free and they have the agency to choose and be safe at work and not have to trade their bodies for food, for shelter.
Yeah.
That's I think when futures change for their kids, their families. And I've seen families become inspired to heal when the individual enters recovery. We've seen these women enter recovery and all of a sudden their family, I can see it trickle across. So it doesn't only affect their kids, it can affect others.
I love that.
And I think that's what we will see change.
I love that.
When when we really begin, and there's other organizations doing great work
Yeah,
supporting women
absolutely.
and children and families, but I think this is something that carries so much stigma with it.
Mhm.
So many women we serve struggle with addiction that either came before or during, after, maybe it sustained them.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that helped carry them through such a horrific violation of their human right. But when we can reduce the stigma, we can talk out loud about that this is happening. It isn't the white van pulling up at a
Yeah.
bus stop and
Right.
pulling someone in. It's
Yeah.
a lot of times it's someone you know and you even think you love. So I think by educating our community, making people more aware, we will disrupt it here.
Absolutely.
And people start to think differently, and then when you think differently, you act differently.
Mhm.
And hopefully that will change the world for those survivors looking for a way out of that darkness.
Absolutely. I want to give Kelly a chance to
Yes.
ask something if there's something she'd like to ask or say. And then I want to talk about that term, the next right thing.
Okay.
I would like to know, who is an inspiration to you?
That's a good one.
Oh boy. An inspiration. I think I'm going to say today it would be when I get to meet someone brand new who's come into one of the houses, and we're in a casual conversation. They might not know what position I'm in, and we just can say, welcome to Bloom, and start hearing their story, what they hope to achieve and dream. Usually there's a lot of energy that first week and a lot of excitement. Sometimes there's anxiety, but I think that inspires me to keep going, certainly. And I mean, graduates, when I get to talk to someone who's finishing up the program and when they're moving on to their next step. The other day, I was one of the people that came to our program talked to me about how the child custody thing changed, and all of a sudden
That was amazing.
that was
I
an
heard
amazing
about that.
experience. And that inspires me because even though that may have seemed like an insurmountable thing to occur, 2 years ago, um, it it was like probably a 15-minute conversation with the courts, and
Yeah.
that it changes the world, going forward. And those kinds of things inspire me too.
Yes. Well, I have to also say that you inspire me. I just, I just love, and I envision like you and really all of us someday, like in Washington D.C. and like let's get loud,
Yes.
Yeah.
and I don't know. I just feel it. We're getting there.
Absolutely.
I think that's when an FBI agent that works in this field told me, I think about a year and a half ago, that it's not going to change a whole lot until victims become, when they're given the platform to share their stories in safe spaces, and when they're leading and and affecting change according to what their experience has been. And I think that this work, it does include a lot of women and men who have, this is their lived experience. We hear from a lot of them, and I've seen that change over time too. I think it's growing, and more we're seeing policies change. And even as we're going through accreditation, that's something we've never gone through before, and all of a sudden now that's become, there are agencies out there that are publishing standards. And that it's very important that survivors influence this work, and so we're seeing that. And when that becomes louder, I think that's when things are really going to change.
Yeah.
Because those are the stories certainly that inspire me, that inspire so many others. It inspires the community that is generous to us, right? They want to hear a starting over story, that their donation, that their gift, that what they brought to this organization was stewarded and turned into an impactful experience for someone we serve. So those are good stories.
I love that. It's amazing as we transition into kind of a model that I've heard you say a lot and talk about a lot, doing the next right thing. And I love that in our community here at Bloom, a lot of us that are here are survivors that have lived experiences. And I love that being a part of your next right thing that you did, because you didn't only provide a continuum care and sanctuary for people to heal, but you've given them a place to put their hands to give back to the work, but also to be a voice. So talk to us a little bit about the next right thing. Why is that term so important to you? How did that come to be kind of a staple in your heart and mind, a kind of a motto that you share often?
Well, it's not a phrase I coined.
Okay.
It is a blogger that I've followed, and she wrote a book called The Next Right Thing. She has a podcast called The Next Right Thing that I've listened to a lot, and I love it so much because I think it gave voice to what I have been doing. So many people, I think they look at this work, they look at Bloom and how we've grown, and they think there must be some remarkable person behind this work. And while those accolades are very sweet, I know for a fact that it's not a vision that I had outlined 8 years ago or 10 years ago. Really is doing the next right thing, and then the next right thing happens. There are choices along the way,
Yeah.
certainly, and then there's divine intervention, and there have been people that have changed the trajectory of Bloom's next right thing because they did incredibly remarkable things. People buying a home for us. We've had that happen 3 times.
That is
Where someone used to
amazing.
approach us in 3 different individuals.
Yeah.
And they happened at different times, thankfully,
Yeah.
because that's like getting a free horse.
Yeah.
And all that comes with it, which
Yeah.
is incredible. It's changed the lives for many, many survivors that we've served. So that next right thing is something that I think as I look back, that's what happened. I wouldn't have known that was what it was.
Yeah.
But as I look forward, it gives me courage and purpose because I know that while there will be choices, we can discern the next thing
Yeah.
a lot easier than I think we can discern the big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I certainly do that. I don't do that alone. We have a board. We
Yeah.
have our team that probably I talk with about every decision I make. But that's
I love that. And what comes to my mind is the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And I love that because that is a faith walk, right? That you do by faith and not by sight. And sometimes doing the next right thing is not necessarily knowing what
right.
that thing is, but as you walk in obedience, as you follow the leading of the path, how things are going, and become boldly adaptive in the moment,
Yes.
you kind of fall into what the next right thing is. And something that you said before that I didn't get to comment about is it impacts generations. And what being a woman of color, being a person with lived experiences, being a person who, after my experience found out that it was something that my mom did and was invited to. What to know that what we are doing not only helps in the moment, but begins to change the trajectory of a bloodline.
Yes.
When we're giving choices, when we are giving voice, doing the next right thing, employing people, giving them rental histories through our transitional program, giving them job histories, we are saying that you don't have to go back to being a forced fraud or coercion. You do not have to do this with yourself. But when you give a person a skill, when you allow a person to be seen, when you restore dignity, it is something so powerful that has a ripple effect. It has such a ripple effect that will go beyond. It will live beyond Bloom.
Yes.
And I love what Bloom Beyond the Walls gets to do as outreach. And I love that you allow us to do that because what we are doing is going to outlive us, right? And when we do something impactful and when you're building something, it should not die when you're gone. And I often hear you say that one day I'm going to retire and I hope to pass the mantle and do it. But
I will.
I
I will.
No, I know. I know that you will. I love the fact that you even have that mindset. I won't even go into that conversation
And I
of
hope
knowing.
nobody remembers my name.
Oh my
You know what I
God.
mean? Like,
No one will ever forget you. We will still be calling, yeah. But I love that what's being built here, it's an eternal thing.
yeah, it's a
And
movement
it's a movement. It's
for
a
women's
movement.
freedom,
Yeah,
for
women's-
survivors' freedom.
Yeah, and and it's so funny. Yeah, we're still in women's lib. We're still in, in that struggle to give women freedom and equality.
Yes.
We have to get ready to wrap up, but I have to ask two or
Okay.
three more things really quickly. Okay, what do you feel like we could do better as a community for Lehigh Valley in this work in this area of trafficking from your standpoint?
Vocation opportunities,
Okay,
safe jobs.
safe jobs. Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. How can the community get involved more?
If you are an employer, if you own a business, and if you're interested in talking with us about what it looks like to employ one of our participants, I want to talk to you. And our residence manager and I have been talking about that,
Mm-hmm.
about how do we engage employers. We have a vision to increase our social enterprise
Yes.
capacity so that we can give more jobs to women,
Mm-hmm.
but that is expensive and requires a lot of effort,
Absolutely.
from us as an organization. I think that there are employers out there, and you may be one of them, so call me, who would be interested to learn what would it look like to employ a participant that is living and working at Bloom. Our program is 2 years at no cost to those that come to us, and the first 3 months they're not working, but they're really focusing on their health and mental health and preparing to hit the workforce. And
Yeah.
we have Flourish, a workforce development program that you'll probably learn about in an upcoming podcast, but it prepares them for the workforce. And so we want to send our participants out into the world fully equipped to get jobs that then will move them forward economically. And I think we could do that.
Yeah.
I think we have the capacity here in the Lehigh Valley.
Absolutely. We can.
Part-time jobs at first. We'll have someone here that can liaise with you
Yeah.
and when there are challenges, but these are women that are hardworking
Yeah.
and they know how to put in the work to get to the next day, the next week, the next month, and hopefully they will begin leading in some of those organizations and then bring in more women. I mean, we have women in our program that need jobs, but through outreach, we're meeting women and men
Yeah.
who need safe jobs so that
Absolutely.
they can lessen their risk for either re-exploitation or exploitation. So
Absolutely.
that's another thing we can do better.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Any last thoughts?
No, I think this has been great. Thank you for letting the viewers get to know you a little more personally.
Okay.
Yeah, and every
Like
so
we do.
often. Every so often we will have what's going to be called our CEO's Corner. And
Okay.
before I go, when I first came here, and I'm gonna try not to cry. I'm gonna be the crying host, I think. When I first came here permanently, I called her boss lady one day, and she hated that. Right? She hated that because that is not the culture that we have here. She's very much about there's no big I's, there's no little U's, and we're all on the same level. She calls us co-workers. She doesn't like to be called, to be seen as someone who's sitting in power over somebody. But I need you to understand how I see you and how many of us see you. So my acronym for boss lady is beautifully observant, smart, spiritual, loving, audacious, determined, and youthful. So when I call you boss lady, that is what I see. When I call you boss lady, that is what you give us because you exude all of these things. You allow us to be us. You allow survivors to find their voices and all of those things. So I know that this has been like a learning process, but you are a trailblazer in this work. You are an example, and we appreciate you. And we hold you up. We pray for you. We cover you. Most of us are very protective of you. No one going to say anything about our boss lady, our CEO.
Not on my watch.
Not on our watch. Okay.
Oh boy.
But
Well,
we love you so much,
you too.
and thank you so much. And again, if you or anyone you know is experiencing human trafficking, you can call the national hotline at 1-888-373-7888, or you can call our intake line at 484-268-8581. Thank you for joining us for another episode of All Things Bloom. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.